Hey everybody, Jason Burmis here. We got a special episode of the Info Warrior for you. As many of you know, as it made headlines yesterday, Trump tweeted out the possibility of possibly moving the elections. And it just so happened that about a week and a half ago, while I was with Pat Miletich, he had basically said the same thing. I asked him, well, what do you think is going to happen in the election? We were talking about Joe Biden. He's like, I don't think there's going to be an election, man. I think that we're going to end up going into a national lockdown, and things are only going to get worse. And literally, as I saw this news story again that's out there, and I want to read the tweet for people just so people know I'm not taking it out of context, because I agree with about 90% of it. It says, with universal mail-in voting, not absentee voting, which is good, 2020 will be the most inaccurate and fraudulent election in history. It will be a great embarrassment to the USA. Here's where I disagree. Delay the election until people can properly, securely, and safely vote. Well, since our billionaire overlords like Bill Gates are on television saying this isn't going to end till 2022, how is that going to be possible? Pat Miletich, break it down for us. What were your thoughts when this tweet started to go viral?
I just started laughing, basically. I mean, I really did, because the way I see it is we're in the middle of a pretty severe situation, asymmetrical warfare with China and whoever those folks are in our country that are pretty easy to identify, I think, in my mind, who are assisting China in this massive socialist communist move and lockdown and everything else that's happening, brother. So I just see this as, I saw it as that it was coming. The riots that are going on, it just seems too easy for me anyway to see it as, I don't know if you feel this way, but it's almost like I'm going, Trump is playing one side, liberals are playing the other, the mayors, the governors locking everybody down, Trump allowing them to do it. Some say, obviously, to expose themselves to the voters. And then it gets worse. Trump makes statements like that to inflame and enrage people even more on the left. More demonstrations, more hostilities, more violence, more looting, more burning, more people dying, eventual martial law, lockdown, and no election.
Well, you know, it just boggles my mind. So let's rewind like 3-4 days ago now. Joe Biden comes out for one of his kind of, predisposed speeches. It's been a while since they ran the Obama piece, which was this beautifully produced piece back and forth that had been edited. And out of the gates, the guy again forgets where he is. As he takes off his mask, he starts talking about how he's in some center, and then he realizes he's not there. And he goes, oh, yeah, no, actually, I used to work down that one. Y'all know where we are anyway, and just starts laughing. And I think to myself, this is a really severe situation. We're about 100 days away from this supposed election if it happens. We still don't have a vice presidential candidate. We have no hard date on any kind of debate whatsoever. And right now, you're talking about the lockdowns. Well, Fauci and Redford are before Congress right now basically placating to this narrative where we need more face masks and more testing and more contact tracing and more lockdowns. Does the rest of the country put up with it if we don't have an election? Because it's almost like you said, this self-fulfilling prophecy where the left's been saying he's going to become a dictator. He's never going to give up power. And then he doesn't have an election, and it plays right into their hand, right, Pat?
Well, yeah, but here, think about this. If the powers that put people in the Oval Office to begin with wanted a Democrat to win, they would have someone besides Joe Biden who, as you said, doesn't even know where the hell he is, barely knows his own name. They're not running that horse to win, bro. Trump is the guy that's been selected, period, to, in my mind, run the massive changes that are happening in this country and in the world in terms of people's freedoms, bro. That's the way I see it. I don't know. I was a Trump guy. I really was. But I've become more and more skeptical every day by the things that are going on. Look, the fact that he's got BlackRock controlling the Federal Reserve and the Treasury right now with their connections to China. Are you kidding me? So I see some pretty dark stuff happening. And it's a bit, I mean, I've had sleepless nights because I've been right and you've been right and Jeffrey's been right. We've been right so many times for so many years that I really don't even like thinking about it anymore because I don't want to be right. Because I don't like what I don't like what I see coming down the pipe, dude.
Well, we were talking about the economy and how it's kind of been propped up and we had these record highs, well, all these record layoffs, and now it's starting to show in the data that the actual GDP is down a record 5% in this quarter, which is a huge drop when you think about it, and 6 million jobs that were just lost in July alone that aren't going to come back. I mean, your state seemed to be doing better than others as I went through. There were parts of Missouri, Illinois, your state. South Dakota has said that they're not going to force their students, for instance, to wear masks. How do people feel about now more and more talk of national lockdowns, of national face mask wearing, if, say, a Biden got in, or they just pressure Trump to declare that that's the next thing? Does that fly with people in your area?
Look, man, there's so many people everywhere around this country that they're zombified, man. They're human drones. They'll do anything the TV tells them to do. Everyone would take their masks off if Nancy Pelosi came on TV and said, "Yeah, it's all over with. You can take your masks off." Do you know how many morons would instantly take their masks off just because Pelosi said it? You know what I mean? So it's just, that's the thing. I'm worried about that. I'm worried about those people. I don't give a fuck about the coronavirus. I'm worried about the people that believe this shit. And even though we know that people are dying, I get it. People are dying from it. People die from a lot of stuff every day, Jason. 1.5 million people die a year from tuberculosis, and that's spread by coughing. There's nobody wearing masks for that shit. Come on. I don't know. People gave up their freedom so easily, voluntarily, that I'm just not going to do it, And I'm deliberately posting stuff to try and get rid of friends on Facebook that aren't ready to hang, man, because shit's going to get real here pretty soon.
Well, if you look at it, we have now Herman Cain dying, but again, he had stage 4 cancer. It's not like he wasn't having health problems before this. Then you have the 80-year-old co-founder of Turning Point. He died. That trended. However, what you're not seeing trend is the fact that I proposed this. I heard somebody the other day going, "I can't believe they're doing the NBA in Florida with all those cases." And I said, well, how many professional athletes have even been hospitalized? I'm like, at all the sports, forget about just, basketball. I go, out of all the sports they've got going now, how many have been hospitalized that are It's zero. It's zero hospitalizations. Yeah. And that metric of hospitalizations is not only obfuscated by the mainstream media, it's not even discussed.
No, it's the people that are dying. They're vulnerable. They're vulnerable to anything. They're obese. They have diabetes. They have, emphysema, COPD. All of that type of stuff. And, nobody wants people to die, right? Nobody does. But in 2018, the flu that killed 80,000 Americans. How many people feel guilty about spreading the flu that year? How many people, would allow me to guilt them into being selfish and going to the store and going out to eat and doing what they were doing in 2018 when it killed 80,000 Americans? Not a single one of them feels guilty about that shit. It's simply because the media, the apparatus, the arm of the friggin' elites, the mouthpiece of the elites is being used to convince Americans and the rest of the world that somehow we should stay home and stay safe and save our fellow countrymen's lives. It's pure madness, dude. It's absolutely pure madness. It makes me want to beat my face against the wall. Pisses me off so bad.
Well, believe me, I'm with you. Tomorrow they'll be shutting down Main Street again, and everybody's going to be sitting there LARPing, sitting outside like, oh, we're doing such a great thing. Meanwhile, that main track is stopping a whole bunch of actual traffic and actually hindering a lot of the businesses because they were already sitting outside when they needed to. On top of that, you brought up the flu, and that's really important because so many people out there think, well, they've told me this has no correlation with the flu. Well, if that's the truth, then why is it that Cuomo is now announcing this contact tracing force not only for COVID-1984, but the flu as well? Why is it that Joe Biden's running a campaign where he wants 100,000 contact tracers, not just for COVID-19, but other health conditions as well? You talk about medical martial law. I mean, we're already here, and this seems pretty expansive when now it's not just like flu-like symptoms. You have the flu, and now you need to be tracked, traced, and databased, and you need to be quarantined for something like, again, the flu, which everybody has had at some point in their lives, Pat.
Well, here's the thing. You come to my house to take my kids away because they reportedly have COVID or the flu or any of this other stuff, you're violating federal HIPAA laws. I can file a lawsuit against you personally and your bosses and whoever sent you to my house for violating the HIPAA laws and exposing me by name to, I mean, you're violating laws. They're destroying HIPAA laws right now as we speak. So, frankly, this is how people get shot, bro. This is how people are going to get shot. These contact tracers, they have no idea what they're getting themselves into by going to people's houses. No clue.
I agree with you that, again, who gave these people authority? How are we expanding this? Number two. And three, when it's so arbitrary, now we're classifying other illnesses as something that these contact tracers are now able to enforce against. I mean, it's beyond Orwell. And when you talk about the Second Amendment, it's one of those uncomfortable conversations unless what? Apparently, Black Lives Matter protests. It's the only time I've seen where the mainstream media now is endorsing the idea that a bunch of these people are armed and now armed with what? AR-15s, right? Now they're embracing these people, but I don't know if you've seen the guy in Texas who killed the other gentleman. He was an Army officer as well. That's why he was so clean with that, because he was military trained, and he knows that if somebody raises a gun at you, you need to defend yourself. And I've seen both sides of the argument. Oh, he drove into a crowd of people. Well, no, he doesn't really. He doesn't look like he's hitting any of these people. Looks like he turned the right and got through, and then all of a sudden his car was attacked. Now, whether or not the other guy shot first or not, you're armed. You have that there. It's not just play acting. This is no longer LARPing. That is a weapon. You best be prepared to use it if necessary. And if someone's going to use it against you, what is the next step? Are we going to see more and more of what we've seen in Louisville, Kentucky, Austin, Texas? I mean, is that the first steps of this, or are we just going to see people start to take things into their own hands as 6 months goes by, 9 months goes by, etc.? Because this doesn't seem to be ending.
Well, think of how long it's taken the elites to formulate and then conduct basically training this generation of millennials who were susceptible to it, with their safe spaces, with their politically correct, with their, being offended by everything, thinking with their emotions and not logic, right? Logical thinking is gone. It doesn't exist for these people. They think strictly on emotions. And I said from the very beginning of this that people who are thinking with emotions, i.e. the moron that raised the gun to his fellow Texan and got himself shot, that's just one example of a lot of this that's about to happen, because they're going to continue thinking with their emotions. They're offended by everything. I mean, I can say one thing on this show. I know how I could turn it into a riot by just saying one thing deliberately to mess with people's emotions, right? And I'm sure listening to us, these people are pulling their hair out anyway, because we're speaking with logic and not thinking with emotions. So I'm just telling people, I've said it from the beginning, stop thinking with your emotions, start using logic, because you're going to get yourself killed and a lot of people killed in the process. And look, the Americans that are thinking with logic, when it comes down to it, man, I'm going to protect my family, and I'm going to protect the interests of my country and my freedoms. So you come at me with your emotions, man, you're going to get yourself in a lot of trouble, right? And there's a lot of guys that are a lot scarier than me out there in this world. So they might want to wake up.
Well, one of the things that bothers me is now I'm supposedly living in a country that is quote unquote systemically racist, right? That's the big talking point. And it's not only just a talking point, in the media. Today, I literally punched into my Tinder, and it stopped me right there, and it told me I was in a country that is systemically racist. It was a Black Lives Matter ad. They've teamed up with Tinder, and I just thought to myself, man, this is so nuts that now I'm being told.
Hey, bro. Hey, listen. Look, I got to stop you right there because, instantly, you're a white guy. That you got to get rid of Tinder now, right? Just because you're a fucking racist because you're white.
It's the craziest thing I've ever seen. It's just like I don't want, my nieces who are half black to grow up in a society that think they're systemically repressed because of their color of their skin. What happened to judging somebody by the content of their character? I mean, it's just so crazy to me that now, our country and everything we've worked through the civil rights movement, through Dr. King, through real police brutality and racism is just totally null and void. It never existed. And we've now gone back to a stage where we're aggressively trying to repress people of color, and that's just not reality, Pat. And that's being pushed.
The media is great at seizing the moments where there is an asshole that happens to be on a police department, or but they never seem to talk about the crime bill during the Clinton administration that Biden, sponsored and wrote, that put millions of black men in prison for drug offenses. I mean, Michael Nunn went to prison for 16 years for like a $200 cocaine deal, right? Michael Nunn and I are friends, but he went away for 16 years because of Joe Biden for that, and Michael's a good guy. He made a mistake, right? But he and I've talked about that. He's not even bitter. He just goes, hey, I still shouldn't have been doing what I was doing. Yeah, 16 years was way overboard. But he's such a good-hearted guy that, like, he's not even bitter about it, where I'm like, dude, 16 years of your life for that, So that's fucking Joe Biden.
Mm-hmm.
That's Joe Biden, the Clintons, all these Democrats. They were the ones that did that, right? And so stop calling us racist and start looking at the people you're voting for and wake the fuck up.
And Joe Biden is that establishment guy. I mean, he gave eulogies at 4 separate Ku Klux Klan members' funerals. That's a reality. This guy's been an establishment guy forever, and they're making him out to be like he's on the side of, social justice. No, he doesn't even remember what social justice is because he can barely remember his name. He has no clue what's going on. And
yeah.
I mean, do you have a prediction who they're going to roll out as his vice presidential candidate?
It's going to be somebody female and probably someone who's African American. Just a hunch, but they're going to give it their best shot at looking like they actually care. But it is what it is. Dude, I don't even know if they're going to roll anything out. I mean, do we hit martial law long before November? I mean, these people are such lunatics. With the not to get sidetracked here, but with the Epstein documents being released and stuff. I mean, I'm surprised the false flag attack hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, but right? I went over those today. So, last night they were tough to get because a lot of them, obviously was getting hit, and there was 47 docs to get through. So I've been through a bunch of them. I'd say one of the more interesting things is that Virginia Giuffre Roberts wrote a 78-page treatment for a novel. So it's in chapter form of some of these experiences. Yeah. Aside from that, though, I mean, it's just pretty much repetition. So you got Glenn Dubin being repeated. You got George Mitchell being repeated. You have the tech guy, Mindy Maskiv. He's being, I hadn't really been into him, but that'd been out there before. Bill Richardson is in there again. Alan Dershowitz is in there. And then there was one that was kind of interesting. They said a president that spoke Spanish. So obviously that's not going to be Ehud Barak. You had the Bill Clinton stuff, but not that she had sex with Bill Clinton, that he had just been on the island. So a lot of this stuff seems like it's already been vetted. It's kind of just doubling over what's already been out there, right?
Right.
And that
Yeah.
a lot of this stuff is still being hidden, and you have now this opportunity for the media to, again, do Prince Andrew, do Bill Clinton. For instance, the Twitterverse, with those dumps, what's trending? Well, they're trying to paint Trump as a pedophile again, even though, you know, he's named in those documents, but not for being with anybody underage. And then they go to the Katie Johnston testimony that I don't know if you've ever seen, but I've watched it. And my problem with the Katie Johnston testimony is, number one, you do have her face blurred. Number two, it got thrown out of court. And number three, even though it got thrown out of court, the mainstream media never glommed onto it. And they glommed onto the P-tapes, you know, that were obviously very, very fake. In fact, your buddy Tom Arnold did a whole Vice TV series about it, about the elusive P-tapes that didn't exist.
Good old Tommy. Good old Tommy. He even knew that stuff was all fake when he did that show. He was just making money, right? And they tried to talk Jeffrey and I into doing one of the episodes with him, and I went, Tom emailed back accidentally to the producers of that show and the executives at Vice, not knowing that we were copied on the email that initially went out to everybody from Vice, right? Mm-hmm. And so he basically came back with some comments like, you know, oh, these guys are MAGA, you know, losers and this and that, and we can just, you know, edit this how we want and everything else. And Jeffrey and I got that email. And so I said, well, Jeff, we probably should send an email back and just let them know we're not real interested. and that's so, you know.
People don't understand that's how it works. You know, they interview you
Tom will not come on our podcast, dude. He knows we will slaughter his ass. And, you know, when he and I are talking in person, you know, he's a very nice guy to me, right?
Yeah.
He deliberately does stuff on Twitter to try and inflame things and whatever. And I'll call him out for whatever. And like last time I just said, you just haven't shown the balls yet to come on our podcast, bro. So, you know, whatever. But dude, to you and I who have common sense and can look at things and figure things out, research stuff, and call bullshit on stuff, dude, the number of people in society that can't do that they're literally not capable of doing it, even if they tried, Jason. That's how sick this society is, dude. It's massive deterioration of just proper thinking.
No, I agree. And I think that, you know, there's been that shift, right, in the late 90s, early 2000s, where everything became about kind of like this celebritard culture. And of course 9/11 happens, but then you reinstill fear into society and you get all those people into almost this lockstep of fear. And then that enemy morphed from Al-Qaeda to ISIS. And now, you know, when terrorism wasn't the big thing during this administration, all of a sudden we got the virus we were promised through those movies like Outbreak so many years ago and Contagion so many years ago, and warning from people like Gates. Gates isn't new to this game. He's been talking about this stuff for 15, 20 years as well. And then finally the invisible enemy is here, and it can literally morph into anything. And they have scared so many people. And to just lay down like this since March, I mean, it's hard to believe that life was very different 4.5 months ago, Pat, but it really was. And I wake up every day and I wonder what's next, and I wonder what the Twilight Zone brings. And with this economic news and now crypto going up, is the next big thing going to be more of a visual economic collapse in this country?
Dude, people have no idea how bad the economy is going to get. The banking collapse happened somewhere around September of 2019. Everything was imploding. And, I mean, a lot of different indicators were there telling us that this was all coming. You know, but this is something that I showed up to. I won't say what hotel I'm at or anything, but it says, for health and well-being of our staff and guests, a face covering over your nose and mouth is required at all times while in the hotel's public spaces. People here in South Dakota are not buying into that, bro.
I know.
They're not wearing it, and I'm really proud of them. And I won't do it either, of course. But it's mind-numbing. It's just mind-numbing, dude. The amount of people that actually buy into this. You know, I think we should all stay inside until it's until nothing bad could ever go wrong again, right? We got to just stay inside, man. Stay inside till we can see every vein through our skin. We're so opaque and pale, right?
Yeah. No, it sounds like a great thing to do. We don't ever want to shake each other's hands. You know, it's funny. I saw Vinny today, and I still couldn't get a handshake out of him. Like, you know, I saw him today, and he wouldn't shake my hand still, and everybody's scared because I was on the road for almost a month, so it hasn't been 2 weeks. So, like, my one buddy's not even allowed to tell his wife that he's hanging out with me. Like, every time she calls, he tells me to shut up. I mean, it's really that bad. And then I went to the ATM today, or not today, 2 days ago, and it was the first time that I'd seen that the lobby was finally open without an appointment. And as I went, not into the actual bank, but just into the front doors where I've been going to the ATM, the woman had to come out and tell me that a mask is now required for me to take money out of the ATM, which is not even in the
serious?
100%.
Holy shit, dude! Holy shit! I would, it would, like, if it was a man, it would be everything in my power not to snatch him up by the neck and shake him until he understood that he is a lunatic.
I felt bad for
the ATM, a mask at the ATM.
At the ATM. So basically,
you're gonna give the ATM a virus.
Pat, I wish I was making this stuff up, but yeah, no, it's infuriating.
Dude. Wait, and this is how insane these people are, bro. Hearing that, how long is it going to take for somebody to be able to file attempted manslaughter, attempted murder, assault charges on me for sneezing around them? Right?
Right. Especially if you don't have your immunity passport.
That's how goofy these people are, bro.
Oh, Pat, I hope that things get better. I don't think they are, and that's why I've taken these trips. And I think in the next few weeks you're going to be seeing me out in Iowa trying to find a new home. As it really, again, it does make a difference, folks. Like, again, I was out in South Dakota. It's the same thing where they say you got to wear them some places, but it's more the corporations. There is no state mandate. The governor continues to be great there. Your governor continues to be great. And,
right.
I just wonder how much more that's going to last, especially, again, if we don't have an election. You can find Pat over on Twitter, at Pat Miletich. Conspiracyfarm.com, theconspiracyfarm.com is where you can find everything Conspiracy Farm with yourself and Jeffrey Wilson. What do you got coming up?
I got a show tonight, LFA tonight, here in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. The LFA has been putting out some great shows, man. They're doing their best with what they've been given, really, and they've done an amazing job putting together great fights. We've had great shows out here, and then we'll take a couple weeks off, and then we'll start back up out here. 3 more shows the 3rd and 4th week of August, and then the first Friday also of September. Those dates are coming up here, and so I'm enjoying this, man. I love calling fights. I love being on the road. I love driving. Hell, I love my alone time and not being on airplanes with people all the time, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm cool with the drive. It's beautiful in the Midwest, and the people are great here. And and Jeff and I we've taken a bit of a break from doing shows, but we're gonna rev that machine back up here, and I'm just telling people, like I said after my fight, man, don't close your business ever again. Don't close your business for these people. We are at war with these people, and look into your kids' eyes. And are you willing to sacrifice their freedoms when you're gone to have them live in literal slavery? I'm not going to do it, man. I'm not going to do it. So people need to wake up and start fighting back. And just, again, if everybody would ignore and not take part in these bullshit programs, these governors, whatever they are, they're not laws.
Executive orders, tyranny. It's totally tyranny.
Yeah, these people don't realize that their power has been given to them. It is an illusion. We can take it back at any time. So the people need to take it back, and I mean take it back now.
I'm with you, my man. We have to exercise that power. That this is a government for and by the people, not a bunch of authoritarians and their minions. And again, Cuomo giving my state to unelected billionaires, Eric Schmidt, Bill and Melinda Gates and Michael Bloomberg is one of the most insane things, Pat, that could possibly be done, but it's being done right out in the open. And again, it would be insane if we don't have an election, but the last 4.5, 5 months has been insane enough. Anything's possible. I'll be watching the LFA. I'm a Fight Pass subscriber.
Boom.
I'm hoping, Pat, what do you think? Are they going to have any events with people anytime soon? Is there talk of that at all?
There are going to be people here tonight up in the boxes, the suites. So they're slowly, and those are going to be health professionals from Sanford Medical in those boxes, first responders, and then some of their partners. Their partners in those businesses, and some of the other stuff. So it's slowly starting to open back up out here as far as live crowds. So, just got to keep moving that direction. And your Governor Cuomo and his brother, bro, God, how they haven't, they're Quisling traitors, and we all know what happened to Quisling, don't we?
Well, again, I don't think it can last forever, and I just, even though he's got a smile and it's talking meatballs and his daughter, the fact is he's gutted that state beyond recognition, and most people still haven't woken up to the fact that this is a never-ending, rolling, lockdown political thing at this point. That's all it is. Every time he says it's not political, there's no other reason to go to Georgia and act like masks are the be-all, end-all. Meanwhile, Pat, compared to what you had with 3,500 people, they just had 2,500 people at a Chainsmokers concert, and the CEO of Goldman Sachs was DJing there without a mask. So that's the kind of disdain they have for us. It's do as I say, not as I do. It's selective enforcement, and if you don't think that 60-year-old CEO doesn't know everything's going to be fine as he parties with literally almost 3,000 people, of course he does. Of course he does.
Well, they just had a massive funeral for one of the U.S. Politicians.
Yeah,
right?
Lewis. Again, you're not allowed to have a funeral for your loved one. In fact, you're still not allowed to go visit your loved one in a nursing home. Still, to this day in this country. But yeah, certain funerals for the predator class and their minions are A-okay when we want to make it politically motivated. It's so in your face and so out there that it's hard to describe to people because I can't believe we're allowing it. And like you said, John Lewis, probably not a big hero. I know civil rights and all that other stuff. Listen, he was one of those guys that pushed Russiagate beyond reproach. I watched him.
Right.
He was not a great guy, and we got to act like he is. Pat, thank you so much for spending time with us. I really appreciate it. We'll be doing this often, I hope.
Yeah, and we'll be doing it more often because you're moving your ass to Iowa and getting out of New York, hopefully, buddy.
It looks that way, man. It really does look that way. So I look forward to it. Pat Miletich, everybody. Thanks again, Pat. Really appreciate it.
Peace.
There he goes. Guys, Pat Miletich. He's a really interesting guy. And I want to thank him for his time. He's a champion. He's a former UFC champion that's coached other champions that's kind of broken out of this kind of right-wing, Trump supporting. He waited and waited and waited, and I appreciate that. We're fully demonetized here. $5, $10, $15 means the world to me. Big donors, we need you now more than ever. Make sure you're thumbing this video up, you're subscribed. And the documentary films, they're all free. Loose Change, Final Cut, Fabled Enemies, Invisible Empire, A New World Order Defined, and Shade the Motion Picture, free. I believe The Conspiracy Farm also over on Rockfin, as well as myself, many others, John Fitch, Ben Askren, Jimmy Dore over there now, Ron Placone, Graham Elwood, The Convo Couch, Nico House, Kim Iverson, and so many others. Make sure you're checking me out there. And guys, I love you. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. I'll see you on the flip.